Hello DB besties, welcome back to the Design Bundles YouTube channel. My name's Laura and I am so happy you're here. If you're brand new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss a thing, because we are back here every week with all the crafting tips, tricks, and tutorials just for you. I'm really excited to be here with you today because we are doing a Cricut Design Space tutorial. So we're going back to basics. We're exploring some of the features of Cricut Design Space and helping you understand how and when to use them. And today we're using one of my favorite Cricut design features, which is the slice tool. Without further ado, let's hop on over and we'll talk about how it works and when to use it. Okay, so before we hop right into Cricut Design Space, I do want to show you what file I'm going to be using today. It is included with a Plus membership, so if you don't already have your Plus membership, definitely grab it. You get so many included files and fonts. It is 100% worth it. And today I'm using this Flamingo SVG that I pulled from the Plus library. It does include print on demand usage and a premium and corporate license, which means you can sell products that have this design on it. So I just thought this Flamingo was really cute. We're going to use it today for our illustration purposes. Let's pull up Cricut Design Space. You can see I already have the Flamingo loaded in, and today there are so many features we could be talking about, but we're going to focus on the slice feature. So I do want you to know that some of the things I do, you may think, oh, I could use a different feature to do that. You totally could, but we're just going to talk about how to use the slice feature. So I like to think of slice like a cookie cutter, and the way slice feature works in general is it takes one object and cookie cuts it through another object. So there's a couple rules to using the slice feature, and the most important one is you can only slice 2 layers at a time. So sometimes you're going to be trying to use slice and you're going to see that it's grayed out or it can't work. 99% of the time, that's because you have more than 2 layers selected. Slice is intended to be a cookie cutter from one object through another, and therefore it can only work on 2 layers. No less, no more. That's the most important thing to remember. And once you have that in your brain, you can really use slice to do some cool and creative things with your SVGs. So let's use the slice feature here to create a little monogram on this flamingo's body. Maybe we want this to go on a hat or on a tote bag, and we want someone to be able to put their monogram right here over the body. And slice feature is a really great way to do that, to create a cutout for that monogram. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check out my design here. I see that it's grouped, so I want to ungroup it first. So I'm going to select ungroup. And the reason why I want to ungroup it first is because of what I said about slice, which is you can only have 2 layers selected at a time. And because those 2 layers were already grouped together, we wouldn't be able to cookie cut anything else, because then it would be more than 2 layers. So you always want to ungroup your design before you use slice. Now I'm going to grab a shape. I know I want this monogram to be circular, so I'm going to grab a circle. And I'm going to go ahead and position it over our flamingo here where I want the monogram to go. So this circle is going to serve as our cookie cutter shape. I almost always use shapes when I'm using slice because typically I want to cut a shape out of my design. So the shapes tab right here is going to be your best friend when you're using slice. Then I'm going to select my circle and I'm going to use Shift and select to click on my flamingo, which is what I want to do the cookie cutter through. You could also do the same thing using your layers panel over here, Shift click, and select both. Once I have my 2 layers selected, I can see the slice tool is right here, and it is able to be used. You can see it is like black, and it's a button that I can click. But if I accidentally did this, and I said, oh, I want to slice this, you can see that it's grayed out. And that's because we have 3 layers selected right now. The beak is included, and the slice tool cannot be used. So I need to deselect my beak, and now I can use slice feature. And when I click it, it's gonna punch that circle right through my flamingo. And when you slice, you're gonna get several new layers of your design that you then have to deal with. The first is our slice result, which is what the circle pushed through the flamingo. Usually you won't be needing that, so you can select delete. Then there's what's left of your circle after it punched through. Again, you probably don't need it, select delete. And then there's the remainder of our flamingo, or what was underneath, and you probably don't need it, so you can delete it. Sometimes the slice result is actually what you're wanting to use and you get rid of the rest, but most of the time you're getting rid of your slice result and keeping the remainder of your design. So now I could come in with a monogram. I could even use the little monogram maker if I wanted to, and I could put my little monogram in there and make something new out of this design now that I've used slice. You don't have to slice with a shape though. So I do want to very briefly talk about slicing with other images. So if I go to my uploads here, I have this bow. This is also from Design Bundles. It's also multiple layers, so I would want to ungroup it before I did anything with it. Let's pull in another flamingo really quick. Let's get a fresh one. I'm gonna go ahead and ungroup him as well. Maybe I want to punch a bow shape out of my flamingo. Or maybe I want to have a bow on top of my flamingo, but I don't want to have to layer it over top. Maybe I want my flamingo to have a bow. I'm gonna quickly, before we move on, I'm gonna move my bow to the top layer so you can see it better. So I'm gonna do that just by dragging it to the top. Maybe I want this flamingo to have a giant bow, but I don't want there to be any pink underneath. I don't want to have to layer these on top of each other. I just want them to nest right up next to each other. Slice feature is a great way to solve that problem. So because this blue part of the bow doesn't overlap my flamingo at all, I don't have to worry about it, but this red part does overlap my flamingo. So I could select the red and my flamingo and select slice. And when I do that, I get rid of all the overlapping pieces and now they just nest together. Once I slice, remember I'm gonna now have my slice result, which is gonna create several pieces. So we need to decide which ones we wanna keep. So let's move our bow off to the side here. We are gonna wanna keep this piece of our bow, but what we don't want anymore is this piece of our flamingo maybe, because we didn't wanna do any layering, we want it to nest perfectly. So now I can put everything back together and I now have my little piece that nests perfectly inside and I don't have to worry about layering these two pieces. And once you have everything fit back together, you could then combine these layers again or weld them, which we'll talk about in a separate video. I'm gonna do it really quickly by selecting these two and then selecting to weld them together to make one piece. But now you can see we're not worried about this overlap. We're not worried about having to layer vinyl on top of itself. Instead, it nests together. And that's kind of another usage of the slice feature. I mostly use slice to do what we did the first time, to cut out shapes, create monograms, create space in my design for words, phrases, names. But there are more advanced uses, like what we just did here, if you don't want to have a ton of layers sitting on top of each other. So this is a really simple way to do that, but you could see where if you had a design that had 10 layers stacked up, you may want to do some slicing to reduce the amount of layers you have to put on top of each other. So friends, that is the slice feature in Cricut Design Space. I hope this helped you understand how to use it, when to use it, and even why to use it. I love using the slice feature on my projects. It's one of my probably most commonly used Cricut Design Space features. And if you loved the SVGs we used in today's tutorial, don't forget to check them out at designbundles.net. There are tons more amazing SVGs where that came from. Again, my name's Laura. If you want to follow me personally, you can find me at It's Laura Lambert anywhere you are on social media, including here on YouTube. You can follow my channel, you can follow my Instagram, connect with me directly. I would love to know what you're crafting and I would love to meet you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon here on the Design Bundles YouTube channel because we are back here every single week with all the crafty tips, tricks, and tutorials. And we can't wait to bring you more crafty fun next week. So until then, happy crafting, DB besties.